back to the official review by Athlon Sports. Last night was the NBA draft, so let's just get into it. Let's start talking about it. Sam, what did you think of last night's coverage of the draft? We all watched it. What do you think?
So I think the draft on ESPN just generally feels like they are focusing too much on this being like a celebration of draft prospects when it's actually just a really big strategic battlefield for these teams, and they just don't play that aspect up at all. All their commentary sort of resorts to things like, this guy's a hard worker, he doesn't leave the gym ever, and look how proud his family is, and it's sort of the same thing about every prospect, I felt like.
I agree with that. I always thought like, all right, well, the opposite of them being like too high on these prospects, like, oh, a guy just got picked 29th overall, and they're talking about him like he's the next Vince Carter. I never liked that, but I always thought the opposite would be like, maybe they pick apart his game a little bit, but I'm like, how do you really do that? It's like kind of rude to do that on the draft night. But I like what you're saying about bringing in like the team strategy into it, because they really don't do that at all. They just show them celebrating every pick, but you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So that is something I would actually like to see more of, but like, what do you think that would look like?
There's a famous clip of Bill Simmons reacting to like Anthony Bennett being picked first.
Anthony Bennett of Toronto, Canada, and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
And just some of that more colorful commentary, because right now it's neither entertaining or beneficial as far as information-wise.
I think the issue is just with ESPN's greater sort of broadcasting of NBA games. They don't really focus on like the X and O's of a game. They only focus on the narratives. And I think that's apparent when you have Stephen A. Smith screaming through half the broadcast about players he likes or players he doesn't like. They just need different people to broadcast these. You know, Bob Myers, smart guy, personality what napkin. You know, he doesn't really add anything to the broadcast. The overall problem with ESPN's broadcasting of NBA is that it just focuses on the wide, like the zoom out picture of basketball instead of the nitty gritty details. And I think people just lose interest in that stuff very quickly.
Yeah, it really is a celebration of the guys getting drafted, and no one likes sitting through a high school graduation award ceremony, and that's kind of what it is. Like you said, this is a huge night for those GMs. Like they're going nuts. It's not just about the guys getting drafted, it's about trades they want to make, and yeah, I actually think that would be an interesting way to do it.
I think if you ever watched MLB Network's broadcasting of the MLB draft, they get a lot more into the weeds with like, you know, pitch repertoire, with like, you know, specific things that make these batters better, and their pro comps and all that stuff, where it's like a lot more detail oriented, because these guys are so raw prospects. When in basketball, these guys are gonna be out playing next year, whereas baseball, these guys will sit, so you don't really have to, you're focusing more on the fundamental skills than you are in basketball. So I don't know, it's just a different type of broadcast.
Steve, you have a tidbit for us?
This is a little interesting tidbit. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. This might just be my brain doing that. The Orlando Magic absolutely love drafting family members of former and current NBA players. Let me explain. So it started in 2016 when they drafted Domantas Sabonis, who is the son of Arvydas Sabonis, but it got a little more crazy recently. In 2020, they drafted Cole Anthony, who's the son of Greg Anthony. In 2021, they drafted Franz Wagner, who is the little brother of
Mo
Wagner
from Michigan.
In 2023, they drafted Jet Howard, who's the son of Juwan Howard. And in 2025, just now, they drafted Jace Richardson, who's the son of
Quentin?
Jason Richardson.
Or Jason.
Yeah, the former Magic player.
That
So
makes
that's
sense.
in the past. So I went back to Domantas Sabonis, which was 2016. But in the past 5 years, they've drafted 4 players who are family members of other NBA players. That's kind of crazy.
So I'm seeing that approximately 10% of all NBA players throughout history are directly related to another NBA player.
But 4 or 5 years is 80%.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a interesting trend, and you know, maybe that has to do with some of the representation around the players.
But I just think in the next coming years, you know, the next 10, 15 years, the majority, not the majority, but a large part of the league is going to be relatives of former NBA players, because of the way the league has progressed in terms of youth training and who can afford it and who can afford the coaching. You know, these former players who
Even just legs up, getting a spot on a team at a young age.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You're already more naturally genetically blessed because your dad is an NBA player or your mom's a WNBA player. You're going to have the genetics. If you have the money and the time, you know, that your family can invest all this money in AAU, there's going to be more former NBA players kids who are going to be making it because of that.
But that is my tidbit. Thanks for listening, guys.
What was the biggest surprise of the draft?
My biggest surprise was when the Pelicans traded up to the 13th pick. So they traded 10 spots forward and the Hawks traded 10 spots back. And in return, the Hawks got a 2025 pick. And they also got an unprotected pick next year. The best pick between, I think it's the Pelicans and the Wolves, maybe. I feel like that was like an NFL draft type trade where like you trade 10 spots in the NFL draft, that's kind of a big deal. NBA draft, the Hawks might get the same player 10 spots back that they would have gotten at 13. For the record, the Pelicans who traded up got Derik Queen. So you traded up 10 spots to get Derik Queen, but also gave an unprotected first. Unprotected firsts are very valuable in the NBA draft. I don't know if that was worth it. I don't know what's going through the Pelicans' head. With all that being said, I do think Derik Queen kind of could be good.
The Queen and Zion fit is kind of questionable to me. They seem a little bit redundant as far as their shot profiles, and they're pretty both reliant on getting to the basket. I don't know how they're going to share the floor together. The other aspect of this is that the 23rd pick that went out turned into Asa Newell. Pretty similar profile to Derik Queen. Maybe could be even better. So it's very unclear how the Pelicans are going to fare in 2026, and to give up your pick like that.
I mean, I think they're going to be bad, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Zion's all of a sudden going to become a star. They just got Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is not, despite having a finals under his belt, is not a winning addition to a team. Kind of a troublemaker. So I think the Atlanta Hawks, they won that trade big, and they also just got Porzingis for nothing too. Hawks are making some random good moves. What was your surprise?
I think my surprise was that the Nets kept all 5 of their picks. Because how are you going to play 5 rookies? I mean, like, it's so many people to have, and not just like 5 rookies. You took a lot of chances on these picks. You didn't take anything that was like, you took a lot of low floor, high ceiling picks, which could work out. And I guess if you're taking a lottery of it, like 5 shots is better than 1. And if one of those guys hits, maybe it works out. But like, how are you going to develop 5 guys? It just seems like too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. There's
Too many kids.
Too many kids.
Cheaper by the dozen, Brooklyn style.
Yeah, Steve Martin, get over here. We need you.
People that they selected were Igor Demin at 8th, Nolan Traore at 19th, Ben Serif at 26th, Danny Wolf at 27th, and then they acquired the draft rights to the 22nd pick, which was Drake Powell. Demin and Traore, both point guards as well. It does feel like they're just making a bunch of bets and hoping that one of them hits.
I like the Demon pick, I'm not gonna lie. Especially like them being in Brooklyn, huge Russian population, and he's a talented guy. So I actually do like that pick, but the rest of the picks you just named, if I was a Nets fan, I'd be like, it feels like we just got a bunch of guys who have a very good chance of absolutely never making it in the league, and we didn't try to combine these picks to trade for someone else. We just saw a trade where Kevin Durant, there was 5 second-round picks in that trade. If that's what you're gonna do with those 5 first-round picks, I would have traded them 100%.
The cast of Vendoras can be really excited that they got the Russian guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Going to a Nets game towards the end of last season, I'm looking out there and I barely knew anyone. Like, I saw Drew Timme out there. I will say they probably have space for a number of rookies to be able to play on that team. And they have a ton of cap space, which, who knows what they'll do with that. But I wouldn't say the Nets are done for the offseason.
It reminded me a little bit of what the Wizards did last year. The Wizards took 3 guys in the first round. People thought they would trade out of a couple of those later picks. But they got Sarr, obviously, with the 2nd pick. They got Bub Carrington.
He's good.
He was good.
Yeah.
Like, he is something. And they got George, I'm blanking on his first name. Keontae? It's Keyshawn and Keontae. I get them.
It might be.
Kaishan is on the Wizards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Keontae
Kaishan.
is on the Jazz.
Kaishan. And they all got playing time, obviously, because the Wizards are terrible. And I think you saw a lot of development from a lot of these guys, especially Bub, who was a project that you're taking intentionally. But 3 is still fewer than 5. I mean, 5 is a whole starting lineup of players.
And those picks are most valuable when you bunch them together in one
Yeah.
trade and you let that team choose how they want to use those 5
Yeah.
picks, rather than being like, hey, we picked Drake Powell the first round. Do you want him?
The problem is, though, now, is if you trade all 5 of those picks or 3 of those picks to a team, then they had that problem. And so which
100%.
team, it's not like it's 5 picks in consecutive years, it's 5 picks in the same draft.
It was funny to see the war room just be so hyped over every single
Yeah, we
pick.
got our guy.
Like,
We got him.
like, there's no chance
We
that
had
all
5
of those,
guys.
Yeah, people are their guys, and it's a bit of acting there. They know they're on camera.